Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. I hope everyone out there in the world is doing well. I hope everyone in the world is doing fine. We are continuing. I've got to adjust. I thought that'd be a cool way to sit, but it turns out that it's uncomfortable after a couple seconds. So, as I was saying, I hope everyone's doing fine. I hope everyone's having fun. So we are going back in and exploring the world of rabbits, the novel by Terry Miles.
And I'd be able to relax. This technique had been extremely helpful after the accident with Annie and Emily Connors, and later when my parents were killed in a ferry accident while on vacation in Greece.
See, the thing is, and this is a trope in Disney. This is a Disney trope. Or I blame Disney. It may not be a Disney trope, but I'm going to blame them for the dead parents thing. It's also a comic book thing too. It's like Batman. Very few of your comic book heroes have happy childhoods. Superman's whole planet got blowed up, so yeah, but you know, it's a trope. It's a trope we all can relate to. Not really relate to. It's a relate is the wrong word. It's a trope that we're used to. It's something that we kind of half-ass expect.
In the years following my parents' death, I would go on to develop a number of deep breathing and relaxation techniques that were effective in combating my anxiety. Those exercises, along with medical advances in anti-anxiety medication, eventually allowed me to stop tapping out tennis matches on my legs entirely.
But the whole use of anti-anxiety meds and stuff like that, I think at some point we're going to see which ones are going to wash out and which ones are going to be worth long-term use. But this is America, and our mental health treatment is, well, less than stellar.
I was almost 2 full sets into that U.S. Open match before I realized what I'd been doing.
Yeah, that is super anxiety when you're that far into it and you go, oh, guess what? I'm stressed.
I yanked my hands away from my knees and took a sip of coffee. It had been at least 10 years since I'd tapped out a tennis match.
Then again, when you're sitting across from somebody with that kind of money in a diner, I think I would be anxiety prone to myself.
Fuck. Why was I so anxious? Scarpio was reportedly 56 years old, but looked at least a decade younger.
Hey, 2 years older than I am currently.
He was about 5'10" and thin, with scruffy brown hair, cool blue eyes, and a wide, mischievous smile.
How do you get to... Well, then again, he wasn't... I don't know. How do you get to 56 and still have brown hair? My hair's getting as white as snow. I mean, see? There's a little bit of black left in it, but it's pretty much snow at this point.
He wore dark blue jeans, faded brown desert boots, and a white Oxford button-up shirt.
Definitely a Gen Xer.
He was Caucasian, with a barely perceptible accent. Most likely English, or maybe Welsh.
I don't know. It says this in the book, but I never read the accent. When I read it, I had always assumed that it was so slight that in my reading of it that I couldn't pick it up. But I guess they kind of, when they did the audiobook, they had, because it's mentioned, they had to put it in there a little bit more.
Did you know rhubarb grows so fast you can actually hear it?
No.
Really? I said. I had no idea. It's true. I have a recording on my phone if you're interested.
Okay, I think everybody that listens to this, their goal is to look up rhubarb growing recordings on the internet. Not that a whole lot of people have listened to these videos. I mean, but those of you that do, gives you something to play with, something to just intellectually bat around the brain.
Oh, cool. I'm just fucking with you. He went back to eating his pie.
Yeah, that would be something I would do and have done and will think about doing.
I mean, it's true. Rhubarb does grow fast, and I do have a recording of it on my phone. But what the fuck do you care?
You gotta love that, you know. I've got that attitude. I just need the money to go with it.
You want to know why we're here? Why I showed up at the arcade, and, more importantly, why I asked you for help.
Yes.
He smiled. Am I right? You're right. Although the rhubarb thing is interesting. Alan Scarpio nodded.
So yeah, rhubarb growing audio tape, or audio sounds, WAV files, MP3s, whatever.
You're lying, but that's okay. He was using his fork to hunt down every crumb on his plate.
I've done that before. I've had some really good sweet potato pie, and I've used my fork to get every little piece and bit of the sweet potato pie. By the way, I will eat a sweet potato pie over a pumpkin pie any day of the week. Just put that out there for general consumption.
Are you sure I can't get you anything? This pie is fucking fantastic.
Somebody likes them some rhubarb.
I'm good, thanks.
Rhubarb.
I took a sip of the warmish coffee. Well, I'm stuffed, he said as he leaned back in his chair and exhaled. Every bit of pie now off the plate and inside the enigmatic billionaire. I sat there in silence for as long as I could stand it. So, I said finally, why did you show up at the arcade?
Because he could? I bet you that's not the answer, though.
You're surprised? Very. I get it. I'm a face you've seen on television or online. I saw Gary Busey once in a bar. He looked so familiar. As I walked by, I smiled at him like the two of us were old friends. He's the crazy conspiracy guy?
Gary Busey? I don't know. He's done some really cool acting things, done some really bizarre acting things, but I don't know. Maybe in the Rabbids universe, Gary Busey's a conspiracy nut. I don't know. That might be worth checking out. His son was in the 90s Paul Verhoeven, I know I butchered that name, Starship Troopers, by the way. Just a bit of trivia.
I suppose maybe he is, but he was in Point Break. Classic. 2 meatball subs. Scarpio held up 2 fingers and yelled loud enough for the entire diner to hear. Get me 2, Utah! I don't remember that scene, I said, as the server approached our table and glared at Scarpio as if he were a small child.
You gotta. Thing is about diner waitresses, and I found this, or at least in Texas, from Houston to Dallas, Fort Worth, to Austin, to San Antonio, and points on west. One thing about a waitress in a diner, they don't give a fuck about how much money you have, what your status is, how important you think you are. They're going to treat you just like they treat everybody else. And that's just kind of universal with them, you know. It don't matter. You could be running for vice president of the United States. They don't care. They just don't care. And that's a great trait, because they're going to treat everybody the same.
Who had just spilled a milkshake on the floor. Is everything all right? She looked tired. The whites of her wide, grayish-green eyes were spidered with tiny red lines.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's another thing about them. They work their asses off for tips, because, at least in Texas, the people in food service don't have to get paid minimum wage. They can get paid below minimum wage, and they're expected to make it up with tips. But, you know, so they work their asses off. So if you're in Texas, make sure to tip your server.
And her voice carried the earned rasp of somebody who'd poured an infinite amount of coffee into the cups of an infinite number of assholes.
Yes, most definitely. And we'll go ahead and we'll go at that. We're going. Can't talk. We'll go ahead and get tight. When I come to that and, my tongue did not want to work. And we'll go ahead and call this a video. So, until next time, be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?